Hour 2 Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 on the TSN app. Your home smart speaker. And up on TSN 4, Chris Collinsworth, Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan.
Execute on 3. 1, 2, 3. Execute.
Luke Willson in
Dude,
studio.
that's what we do. We execute. You and that goon talk gibberish, and that's all you do.
So we need to start, Hayes. We need to start.
Yes.
You need to explain how you thought, with tremendous information and gut instinct, it was appropriate to take Tim Boyle to cover a single-digit spread against Tua, Waddle, Hill, Mostert. I'm going to throw McDaniels in there.
Yeah, it was
Jalen
crazy.
Ramsey's
it was an awful
back.
pick. There's nothing I can say other than it was a terrible pick.
But, dude,
it was
give
a
me
terrible
the
pick.
heater line. I have to know
I'll
the
explain
heater
where
line.
we came from. This is where we were coming
Was it a
from.
Gibbous Moons phase?
It was a scenario where the Jets were at home. I thought, as bad as Boyle was, and he wasn't worse than Zach Wilson. Like, Zach Wilson was equally as horrible, if not worse. So I'm like, at a minimum, they're going to get the same quarterbacking, if not possibly a spark. I thought they'd run the ball a lot better than they did. Tim Boyle, that pick six at the end of the half, crushed us.
Terrible.
But I also was thinking, Jets defense at home. I didn't love Miami's game coming in. Didn't love their game coming in. Divisional game. We always talk about that. Divisional game. And the spread was 9.5. It screamed the back door. Timmy Boyle miracle in the fourth quarter. It didn't transpire. Whatever. We're 4-1-1 on the picks we've made.
You've never seen Tim Boyle play.
Thank you,
He's awful, Tim Boyle. I understand that. Tim Boyle is irrelevant to all this. Whether it was Tim Boyle,
4-1-1. 2 of those wins, the starting quarterback were hurt in the middle of the game. The push is and I heard you earlier on the show being like, we nailed the push. The process was perfect. The Bills puked 35 times.
Process was perfect.
I
said this on Friday.
Pushing that game.
I said last week, at a minimum, we push. It's a push or win. The process was perfect in that Eagles pick. And sure, he hit a 59-yarder in the rain.
The sky's falling.
Listen, I'm not too worried about it because we got a game tonight. Now's Brothers coming up, and it'll be tremendous information plus gut instinct. You're right, Noodles.
He wants the hashtag. What
TG.
What is it?
TG. Or I got to figure that one out. I'm trying to. It's TIGI.
Tremendous information,
gut
instinct.
instinct.
I hope you guys keep rolling with it because
we're going to win tonight.
You'll lose tonight to go to 7. And next week we'll be up
There's still like 30-plus picks to be made. I did the math today.
We don't
like
often do
this.
Party, we don't often do this because we just don't. But is there any scenario where you personally would take the Bears tonight?
No.
Yeah, I know. But I guarantee you these dummies do it.
I'm not going to say
You're going to take the Bears?
We're not saying anything until Al's brother, my partner, joins me. Okay?
Hayes & Co. is a fraud.
Yes, they are. Tremendous information and gut instinct in about 10 minutes. Al's brother, he's down in the basement. He's drinking coffees right now, and he's ready to rock in about 10 minutes. So the world is waiting for our pick. 4-1-1 when we make picks. Process has been electric. You extrapolate that over the rest of the season, and we're going to fly past you by, I would say, week 16. But that Bills loss last night, how do you put that into perspective?
Great game, though.
It was
Great
an unbelievable
Great
football game. Like, of all the bad primetime game, and that was not technically primetime, but that 4 o'clock window can bring heat.
Yes.
And there's great 4 o'clock games the rest of the way. It was just a phenomenal football game yesterday.
It was a phenomenal game that the Bills should have won.
Yes.
Numerous times they had chances to win it. I can't fathom. The thing that bothered me probably the most was actually, so Jake Elliott goes out there for a 59-yarder. The idea of icing the kicker has always been a strange one to me. But when it's windy, cold weather, and it's a grass field, why would you ice the kicker so you can kind of be like, okay, let's make sure that I can't slip on anything. Right. Let's give myself more time to think about this thing, all the elements. No, but what makes it worse is you then blew a timeout. So you blow a timeout, you get the ball back with 20 seconds. I understand that that's not a lot of time, but you got Josh Allen who was playing out of his mind.
Yesterday. Best game I've seen him play all year.
He's going to start with the ball on the 25-yard line, and you're giving him 3 plays with what should have been 2 timeouts to get into field goal range.
Yep.
And you're going to sit there and go, nope, we'll ice the kicker. Elliott makes it. And then still, Do I need to? I said this on Jay last night. Do I need to remind Bills fans of a couple years ago what the Chiefs did with 13 seconds? Yeah. The idea that you then come out and don't even take a shot, be like, okay, we're going to maybe throw a go ball to Gabe Davis, the guy's huge, or we're going to run Stephon Diggs on a deep crossing route, protect it. Josh, you got to throw one. We'll call a timeout, try and get out of bounds, kick a 60-yarder. Elliott just did it. Whatever. You get the point.
Pardsy, we talked about the defense again.
Oh, my God.
Like, for them to take control of that game, it's like Josh had his turnover, and it didn't look like that egregious. The guy made a hell of a play to make the interception, but it was like he recovered after that, and he got on the lead. Like, that prevent defense, it absolutely drives me nuts. It's like you work so hard during the game, and it was so easy for Philly to march down that field. And I know there was some setbacks and different plays or whatever, but it's like, can't you get a 3-and-out one damn time? Like, come on.
But doesn't that speak to what you're saying? On both sides of the ball, Sean McDermott is terrified. That's what it says to me. You got a head coach that is terrified of mistakes, and what it leads to is losing in 2023.
What's funny, O-Dog, just to add to what you just said, is, and it won't go down for like a ton of the stats gurus, but if we go back a couple weeks to the loss at Denver, late in that game, Sean McDermott dialed up a cover 0 blitz. It was the PI to Jerry Jeudy, and it was a huge talking point. Well, they run this very conservative style defense, and the touchdown, which Hurts ran in, is another cover 0 call. So he goes from like, let's be conservative. Okay, let's now call the riskiest possible play that we can. I was watching an interview with Jordan Mailata after the game. He's the left tackle, and he was giggling. He goes, I couldn't believe they called that play. We had the perfect play for it. As soon as I saw it, I was like, holy, again, I'm not verbatim here, but he basically was saying
blitz,
it's an all-out blitz.
Yeah.
And what happens when you have a mobile quarterback and you have an all-out blitz against a veteran offensive line who's going to snuff it out, which they did. 2 guys slanted, they blocked him down. Travis Kelce pulled, kicked out the end, and we all saw it. Hurts walked in untouched, and there's nobody there. And you're like, where'd everybody go? Well, they all blitz or they're playing man coverage. I don't know how you call that play in that moment against this guy. If it was a quarterback who can't run, maybe. It's just like you sit here and
have you ever been
in
a meeting? Have you ever been in a meeting on the Monday or the Tuesday, and the coach walks in and somebody, instead of the coach dictating, the player puts up his arm and says, "What the hell were you thinking on the sidelines on Sunday?" Does that happen?
It happened. It's never happened in Seattle for me. A lot of more that's closed door, but in Detroit. They would wait for Patricia to get the defense alone. And there was a couple of DBs that would run their mouth to Matty P and be like, what are you doing? Like, I remember the big issue they had with Matty P was like, we'd get a team in 3rd and 13 or something, and he'd play press man. And guys would be like, why? Like, why? And we'd get burned for a 15-yard go ball. And they'd be like, so, but what Matty P does was he'd ship them all out of town. You know,
right. He'd consider it a mutiny, and you had to go.
Another funny one. And again, this is a true story. I'm in Seattle the next year, and in the middle of a walkthrough, the GM, John Schneider, comes down to me. And I know John very well. I have a great relationship with him, but I've never been called out of a walkthrough by our GM. So I'm panicked here. I'm like, what's going on? He's like, hey, what's the story with Quandre Diggs? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, Detroit's trying to get rid of him for a 5th rounder. We're watching the film like, what am I missing? And I'm like, he talks back to Matt Patricia, and he can't stand that. That's why he's getting rid of him. He's like, seriously. I said, he'll be incredible in this locker room. Great guy, great player. I'm making that trade all day. Granted, I'm not, the guy making the trade. Next day, we traded for Quandre Diggs, and he was a Pro Bowler.
You're kidding me.
Wow.
And that was it. I told him
you knew exactly what it was.
I'm like, now, Quandre was not the most vocal guy to Matty P. There was another guy I was talking about that would really call him out. But Quandre was kind of like the leader of the players in the locker room, in that defense especially. And he was not a big Matt Patricia fan, nor was anyone. I'm not trying to.
So how would you know this being on the offensive side of things? So like
another weird one about Detroit. Detroit was the only place I had been where Patricia would run full team meetings, and we'd be in there for an hour and a half talking about things that for me didn't matter. Now, he would cringe hearing me say that. But like in Seattle, we'd come in, let's say Wednesday, boom, because Monday you watch the film. Wednesday, we'd have our special teams team meeting, boom, and then Pete would maybe spend 15 minutes being like, hey, here's the offense, what they try and do, defense, what they try and do. We're breaking up right away. Boom. Defense goes, offense goes, and we start talking about what we're game planning on offense. Where Matt Patricia would stroll in there, he'd have his hat on, not this hat, of course, but
That's
super low.
classic,
Yes.
Timo and Wilson.
We would whistle the Jeopardy song, waiting for him to show up because he was late every single meeting of the entire year.
Dude, does not fly with me, man.
Yes. It was wild.
Pro sports, and Hazy wouldn't understand this, but they start 15 minutes early.
Yes. So we'd all sit in there and wait for him to show up. I'm like, if it was 8 o'clock meeting, he might show up at 8:06. We never knew.
You lose your players,
That's
man.
crazy,
I'm sorry.
man.
And then
Showing
he would
up
sit
late
there.
to a meeting.
Yes. I'm not exaggerating. He was 0 for the whole year.
That's
0 for.
Come on.
Okay? And then we'd sit there and he'd go on like, okay, he'd start asking like historical questions, like how did this owner get his money? And if you didn't know it, wasn't good.
Like you're supposed to know David Tepper.
Yes. Yes.
Like, that's
I'm
ridiculous.
serious. And then he'd go on and be like, okay, let's get into their offense. So I'd be sitting there watching the opposing offense and haven't even installed anything yet for our offense.
Right.
Like, don't know what our game plan is.
Just wasting your time.
Boom, 45 minutes. This is when I first started drinking coffee. Now I drink coffee all the time, but I'd be on the verge of snoozing.
That's crazy.
So I'd sit in there with a huge cold brew and maybe like a hot tea to try and like shock the system.
Yeah.
Be like, I
Because
gotta,
you're like, I guess I got to watch what this guy's putting on. You're in there. He is the head coach.
Yeah.
That's wild, man. Well, listen, as for I don't think you can have a mutiny with Buffalo right now, but they're 6-6. That was one they had to have
Had a
last
dagger
night.
last night for
That's
them.
got to be the end of it, right?
And I don't think it's the end of it yet. I'm not going to say that yet. Because what it did show me is that they are capable of beating anyone. I still think the Eagles are the best team in the league. You know, I know there's some debate there, but they're certainly the most talented offensively. The only weak spot I see with the Eagles is their secondary.
Your boy Davis was dogging on the Eagles a little bit with that record. I found it a little surprising.
It's very surprising.
But they're playing with fire a little bit.
They are.
They're
playing
let's
with fire.
face it. They're winning these games, but it's like 60-yard field goal.
Yes, they're playing with fire. I totally agree.
But
with
it's
that.
not
still
fool's
wins,
gold, though,
man.
right?
No.
Wins are wins, but I'm
But
No,
again,
they're loaded.
you're questioning how they win because it's not clean.
they're getting outgained. Like
They're
there's a lot of
10
different
and 1
things.
and haven't even scratched the surface of what they're capable of doing.
Right.
Talent-wise.
Which is greedy, admittedly.
But does that
They're 10 and 1.
does that concern you? Last year, the Boston Bruins, they dominated in the regular season, and they would win. They'd be down 2-1 with a minute left, and then they end up winning 3-2 in overtime or whatever. And then in the playoffs, they didn't have adversity all year,
Yeah.
and in the playoffs, they lost in the first round.
So I would say it would if they were playing better. In a weird way, I have felt that in a similar situation in my career, where my first year we started 11-1, and the one loss was a fourth quarter. Andrew Luck ripped us apart, and then we ended up losing in San Francisco to a very good team, and then we lost to Arizona at home, which was shocking.
Right.
And it kind of made us like all be like, hey,
Wake up.
we can get beat too now. You know, Arizona just came into our building. It was a bit fluky, but they won, and it ended up making us have to win the final game of the season to get the 1 seed.
Okay.
But what I like about Philly in these wins is that they are winning, but also facing that adversity. Like nothing has been comfortable. So I don't get the vibe from this team. They're just like, we can do whatever we want. I think that there's actually a lot of frustration in Philly.
Luke Willson in studio. We're going to get Al's brother in here in a few minutes. But before we do, again, he's stewing. He's preparing for tremendous
taking the Bears,
information.
isn't he?
We'll see. We'll find out in a few minutes. The MVP, we've had this discussion, a couple times over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts, I think, is still statistically the favorite. But his stats don't jump off the page. Like, I would think Mahomes should be right there with him likely right now. Did you make the case for McCaffrey recently?
Yeah, I would
And
say,
I can reason with that. Like, this feels like if there was ever going to be a year where it wasn't a quarterback, it would be this year.
Yeah, I look at, for me, most valuable player, if I had to say who my leading guy would be, it'd be Hurts, and I can explain that in a second. Number 2 for me is McCaffrey. And I think to myself, who's the most valuable player on their team? And yes, for me, winning is part of it. You look at those two teams right now, I think they're 1A and 1B for the best two teams in the league. You take Hurts out of this offense, what is it? And I understand like the stats aren't jumping. Well, the guy's ran for 11 TDs so far, and he's thrown for 18. He's had a couple turnovers that have not been pretty. That kind of kills it. But the system is based around him. And this idea, we're like, oh, he's got a bunch of weapons around him. Yes, but also you look at A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown was not the guy he is today in Tennessee. They brought him there because they knew Hurts could get him the ball. So I'm not really sure how Hurts is, like, everyone's like, oh, his stats aren't that great. What is so bad about these stats?
No, I think it's compared to like previous years where, Manning throws 50 touchdowns, 5,000 yards. Like that's what I'm saying. Like Mahomes has had years where it's been 40-plus touchdowns. When Rodgers won his, it was like 40 touchdowns, 12 picks.
Yes.
Like those are like staggering.
Very fair.
Quarterback. And I think what he is a victim of is the rushing touchdowns he's getting them, but a lot of them are tush-push, and it's like that's not him. Like it's
I agree
how much of that is
disagree.
him, how much of it is the line and the system.
I think it's a team play for sure, but the fact that he squats 600 pounds certainly helps.
He's definitely a beast, and he gets it every single time.
Yes. How much can you squat, Partsy?
Right now, I have no idea, but back in the day, I was flirting with that. I want to say I was right around 585, 6.
Oof. Me too, buddy. Me too.
I haven't put a barbell on my back in a long time. But I don't know why CMC isn't more considered, and I get the whole he's not a quarterback, but what isn't this guy doing?
It's the same. It's everything out of San Francisco is system, Shanahan. It's the same thing that Purdy has to deal with. Like what I saw to Purdy on Thursday, I didn't think was that pretty until he had to make a throw to close the game, and he threw a dime.
Yes.
And it was like, that's what they are looking for, and that's what he deserves a lot of credit for. Because that touchdown he threw, I think, to Ayuk to close it, that was a dime.
And again, going back to the MVP combo, but who else? Like, to me, you can't.
Mahomes is still in the running.
Mahomes is in the running. He has not had a Mahomes-type year. He's obviously very, very good. He doesn't have a ton of help around him. I understand that. Josh Allen, I mean, the guy looked incredible yesterday. He's throwing a lot of picks, and his team is 6-6.
Yeah, he's not in it.
So I don't know. I mean, I know a couple weeks ago it's Stroud. Stroud again. He's got solid numbers. They're 6-6. Like, to me, winning has to play into it.
You know who might know?
Oh, no.
Is
he coming in from the chopper?
He's coming in from the chopper. Al's brother. I don't even know. What was he? Just over the phone? We don't even have him up on screen. He's just over the phone. That's how this guy's so busy right now.
He's in Tuscaloosa with the trucking company.
Al's brother, welcome to the show, and I have to lead with this question. What the hell were you thinking with Timmy Boyle? Like, just give me the reasoning why you thought. Tell me.
It wasn't a belief in Timmy Boyle. It was more the belief in that defense, who've been playing some solid football, and I just thought they'd be able to keep it close. I took a look at the previous few games that they had played. They kept it close against some good teams. But unfortunately,
so did you have to run that by Hayes? Was it your call?
We were in lockstep.
We were in lock.
We
were both on. That pick six at the end was really the dagger.
Yeah,
who throws a pick six at the end of a half?
Well,
come on now.
And
Tim Boyle.
Not only that, Timmy Boyle got his wires crossed when he was trying to tackle the guy. That was the most embarrassing part. He got danced. Like he was the last man back. He could have kept it. Because any tackle ends the half there. Timmy Boyle, not the best. That was not our best call. No. But we still redeemed ourselves with a perfect process in that Eagles pick. Many people are saying that game should have closed at -2.5. That should have been a win, but it's fine. And we roll on. We're 4-1-1 in our picks. You extrapolate that over the course of the season, we're going to blow past these clowns in just a matter of weeks. And we're on the board tonight with the pick. Is it still Vikings -3? Just confirming that. Doogie is giving us the thumbs up here. Al's brother, you bring the tremendous information. I bring the gut instinct. Please lead us in the right direction. Who do we like tonight?
Yeah, I mean, Hayes, I think we gotta like Minnesota here. I mean, I'm with these guys earlier where they talked about you can't possibly be on the Chicago Bears. You look at Minnesota, they've owned Chicago in the last 3 years. They're 5-0 with a 51-point differential, winning each of these games by 6 or more points. They only need to win by 3 tonight. The Vikings are the cover kings in the NFL. They've covered in 6 straight games overall this season. And look, this defense, they're going to put a lot of pressure on the Chicago Bears, who are giving up a lot of sacks this year. Justin Fields going to be running around, and they've done a good job of limiting quarterbacks. Just 18 yards that they've given up per game to quarterbacks this year. So I think that they'll be able to keep Justin Fields in check. I really like this offense. No Cousins, no Jefferson. It's been no problem. They're still out there. They're a top 10 pass defense still, going up against the Bears, who are ranked 25th against the pass, giving up a QB rating of 96%. Dobbs should be able to go out there and find find some success. I think we should lay the points here with the Vikes by a field goal.
All right, tremendous information. My gut instinct would say.
Doogie, just an FYI, Doogie, this is the biggest layup, so you owe us one.
It's a Monday night.
I don't care. I don't care.
Doogie handed you guys freebies over the weekend.
Really? Which one?
A bigger number, though.
I'll be honest with you guys.
You're on the Bears.
I'm not on the Bears, but it's not. This is not going to be as simple as Al's brother just said. Perhaps Al's brother is forgetting one key number in his tremendous information. Al's brother, any chance you know who's leading the league in rush defense yards per carry?
Go ahead, Al's brother.
I would assume that would be who in yards per carry. The
yards
Chicago
per
Bears?
carry. The Chicago Bears have the number one.
I'll give him a second. He's
defense.
Googling it right. He's Googling it right now.
Yards per carry.
Are you Matt Patricia? You're giving out a quiz here? What does it matter?
So you tell me what's going to happen today. You look at this Minnesota offense. Oh, what did they do against Denver? They ran for, I think, 175. Are they going to run for 175 tonight? Absolutely not. So you're telling me that Josh Dobbs, with no run game and no Justin Jefferson, is going to come out here and cover 3 points. You feel good about that?
I do believe that'll be the case.
Back.
Yeah.
Khalil Herbert. Have we forgot about our guy Khalil?
Listen, this is where gut instinct takes over.
Oh,
the Bears are not
Tim Boyle
playing
gut instinct.
If anything, the Bears would prefer to lose this game, right?
Now,
the Panthers are going to hand them a first overall
Let me
pick.
counter that, please.
Eberflus is a fraud. Everyone understands that.
My guy!
You know Eberflus has no idea what he's doing.
Bears fans want them to lose. You know who's not?
That's fine. The players may not want to, and Justin Fields in particular.
Justin Fields is playing for his life.
But it doesn't matter because Carolina's going to hand them the first overall pick anyway. So that's out of his control.
No, the first overall pick, yes, but you know it's not. Hey, if I ball out here, either I get traded to a good situation or I'm still the starting quarterback.
But do you know who's also thinking that is Josh Dobbs, who continues every week he goes out there is playing for his collective career in the NFL, and there's something on the line for Minnesota.
I hope he balls out. I love Josh
Minnesota
Dobbs.
had won 5 in a row prior to last week at Denver. Denver all of a sudden doesn't look so fraudulent. They won again yesterday.
I'll tell you what happens.
That's a tight
in this
loss
game.
against a good team. This is a 3-point spread.
Partsy,
It's
tell
a
him what
process.
happens
I'll tell
in
you
this
what
game,
happens
and I
right
have
now.
a question
This is
for you and
Vikings
Al's
by
brother
4
right
or
after.
more.
This is a gross game.
I don't like the
Turnovers on both sides. Someone's going to miss an extra point one of those nights, and all of a sudden, the Bears are going to be up 2 points with about 1:43 on the clock, one timeout. The Pasternot's going to go do, dink down the field, kick the field goal. Vikings win by 1. Don't cover the spread. +7 leading into the Thursday nighter. Double digits next week. The troll, as my Parksy said, will be thrown under the bridge.
I'll let me leave you with this,
no.
Partsy, and then the troll from under the bridge I can hear his response too. Do you think your boy Russ, is he cooking? Is
No.
that for what?
No.
They won 5 in a row, dude.
Respect on his
Put some-
name. Put some respect.
Time out. I like Russ, and when I've seen him cook, is he cooking compared to last year? Sure.
Dude, I'm just saying they won 5 in a row,
They've
man.
won
You gotta
5 in a
give
row.
him some
Chef,
flowers.
You got the
compared to
numbers
last
there. How
year.
much did he throw for yesterday?
Let me find
He
it.
does
sub
deserve some
200, I
flowers,
think.
though.
He does deserve flowers.
Yeah, he was playing Cleveland, man. Cleveland's defense they're filled with studs. He went 13 for 22, 134 yards. But what sticks out,
13
didn't turn the ball over.
for 134 yards.
A touchdown, no picks.
That's fair, but that's not cooking to me. Is he playing efficient football? Is he finding a way? Yes.
Admittedly, he's not cooking, but compared to last year, like I said, he's a Michelin chef. Like last year, the guy.
compared to last
it was it was a joke last year.
Fair. But I wouldn't put him in the category of cooking.
Okay, that's
Let's
fair.
ask the expert. Al's brother, care to chime in?
No, I would tend to agree. I wouldn't say he's cooking, but you know what? He's been efficient, and sometimes you just need to manage a game properly, and that's what he's been able to do. That defense is balling out. He's getting some good catches, too. Like, they're finally getting what they wanted to get out of Cortland Sutton. That guy's becoming a baller this year. He's made some big-time catches to kind of help them put some points on the board. But, it's a quality club, and they're in the hunt for a playoff spot. I didn't think that was going to be the case, but they are.
I got to give him credit, man.
So are the Gardner Minshew Colts.
Yeah, they are
That's right.
officially in
Hey,
spot.
those are wild.
Was
Come
Minshew
on
the
now.
one that was in Cleveland with the ponytail? Which was
No,
the
that was
handlebar mustache.
what was that guy's
He
name?
was down
Jacksonville.
He was in Jacksonville, Minshew. But who are you talking about?
You
We
know
always
who
bring
he
him
was
up.
literally like the 5th string quarterback they had that year. They brought in a guy with a ponytail.
I know exactly who you're talking about. We bring him up every 6
I know.
months.
I
and
gotta
always forget
find
his
his
name.
He's got me stumped too.
Well, we'll figure it out.
reminds
Charlie
me-
something. Charlie.
Whitehurst?
Charlie
Like Lord
Whitehurst.
Jesus?
Yeah.
Charlie Whitehurst.
He
Yeah.
was a Seahawk before he got there. A lot of
Yeah.
good stories about Charlie.
I'm sure he's a great guy.
Yeah.
Not.
He was
cooking.
literally playing in jean shorts. I swear to God,
Yeah.
one night.
It was not electric watching Charlie Whitehurst. All right, the boys, Hayes and Bro, are on the Vikings tonight. And it's not a great game, but it is what it is. And the process, I think, will lead us to victory. Right, Al's brother?
Skull, baby, skull.
Boy, Al's brother. Thank you, AB. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it,
Luke?
boys.
Go back under the bridge. Go back under the bridge.
All right.
Is he doing the sim? What did you come up
Oh,
with?
yeah,
the
I got to do
symbol?
that for us. There you go, Al's brother. That one's
Dude,
for you,
that-
buddy, the Wolf Pack.
Like, just
Ow.
throw your man card in a wood chipper with that. It's garbage. It's garbage.
We are chugging right now. We go 5-1-1 in our picks after tonight. That's a winning percentage. That's basically the 72 Dolphins. And this is just going to be in cruise control. Because I looked it up today. There's still like 38 more games to be picked.
I'll be honest, though. The
a
Tim
lot of
Boyle
games.
thing has really, it
was
reminds
not a
me
good
of
pick.
the Red Sox curse when they traded Babe Ruth.
Yeah, that was Timmy Boyle does.
I don't know
have
if you'll win another game.
the great Bambino vibe.
Yeah.
The great Boyle. It is a Boyle
On your ass.
On our ass
Yeah,
right now.
That's a tough.
That's a swing, man. How do you bet on Tim Boyle? Anywho, all right, Luke. Enjoy the game tonight.
Cheers. Good
There it
luck.
is. Luke Willson joining us here in studio. Al's brother, one half of Hayes and Bro. We're on the Vikings laying 3 tonight. Wendell Clark in studio in about an hour. Steve Phillips in about 35 minutes. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Wendell Clark's coming up in studio. Love seeing Wendell. I saw him a couple times over the summer and generally at golf events. Wendell is
Star.
loves to tee it up. Everywhere he goes, it's Wendell, Wendell, Wendell.
He's a
the
legend
best.
in this city.
Yeah, the definition. Literally on Legends Row.
Every
Like,
time we have him on, do we have to bring up the Bruce Bell hit?
I don't know if we do this time.
I don't know.
Like, if we want to keep the streak alive, we can mention that. Like, Bruce Bell, I looked him up recently. I think he's from Toronto, Bruce Bell.
Really?
Yeah.
You know what we should do at some point? Have Bruce Bell on.
I don't think he wants to talk about that.
What would we
Dude, the
possibly
guy, I don't think
ask
he
him?
ever played again after that hit.
Let me look
Really?
him up. I got
well,
his
let's
hockey
hope he
debut
did,
right
and
now.
Let's hope he's fine.
Bruce Bell, yeah, born February 15th, 1965, Toronto, Ontario.
It's one of the hardest hits ever in the
Of
history
all
of the game.
time. Yeah, you know what? He did actually play beyond that because he was with the Rangers after the Blues. And he actually played a game for the Oilers in 89-90.
There, we could talk about.
And he was a Sioux Greyhound. So
Oh, it's-
maybe Dubas tried to bring him in when he was here. Who knows?
No,
but,
Dubas didn't speak on the weekend, did he?
I didn't see anything.
Because I
No.
saw him trending, obviously, after the game and that. Like, did anybody bring it up? Did Pittsburgh players talk? I know
Leaf
Sullivan-
players did. Leaf
Okay.
players
I
spoke.
didn't see
Noodles,
any
what are you
media.
talking about him trending? Every day, if you just casually look at trending, Dubas trends, Marner trends, Nylander trends, Tavares. I just see random stuff and I click on it. I'm like, oh, did something happen?
Yeah, no, it's conversations.
They're trending all the time, that group of people.
Jerry Pagula is trending today,
Yes.
obviously, because he won't fire the coach down there.
Down in Buffalo?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I look at it and, that weekend I was down in the States for the weekend, so I was watching the game on my computer and I saw Mike Sullivan talk about
Yeah,
Dubas.
I think Sullivan's said what you would expect. It means a little bit more.
Right, a
we
little
all
bit,
know Kyle's history. A lot of just gratuitous
it was lip
stuff.
service, yeah.
And even the Leaf players were like, Kyle was, meant a lot to us and all that kind of
Good,
stuff, which you would
blah, blah, blah.
expect.
Yeah.
And by all accounts, Kyle Dubas was a guy that the players liked. He treated them really well. He put forth a system in conjunction with the rest of that front office that treated the players really, really well, like first-class organization. And I'm sure that has continued. In fact, I know it has.
Yeah.
With Brad Treliving, and my assumption would be it will continue to be that way for a long time. And I think that probably is more Shanahan-driven.
Yeah.
That was, established with Lamorello, into Dubas, into Treliving, and whoever the GMs are going to be in the future. But
Right.
Dubas, he had a good run here. They won one round, and people are trying to connect dots. I heard Jonas on the morning show today about how different the team would be today compared to if Dubas was still here, and I really just don't. It's all speculation. It's all conjecture. We'll never know the answer.
Why? Because of what he said at his year-end meeting?
Like the idea that he was going to be committed to changing the core four. And I don't believe that. I don't think he would have in the end. In fact, if he did, it probably would have been Nylander that went, which means Nylander would be maybe doing what he's doing right now on a different team. Could you imagine what this market would be saying if that happened? Yeah. And even like Dubas made it clear when he acquired Carlson in Pittsburgh that he had started talking about that when he was in Toronto. Yeah. Like he was looking at Carlson as a possible option in Toronto. I don't know how that possibly could have worked. But I think after you play the game, I think after Dubas comes to Toronto for the first time, it's slowly just going to fade. It's like when Lou Lamoriello left. Yeah. Remember when Lou left and it was like, hey, Lou's back. We got to talk to Lou. And now you wouldn't even – I don't even remember the Lou Lamoriello days.
Exactly. The best way to make it go away is no presser. Like no, because then someone's going to pop a question or an answer's not, and it's just going to blow up. So the best way to do it is just nothing.
Yeah.
No talking, and then it just goes away.
I had a good chat with Lou on Friday.
You saw Lou? Oh, yeah, because Ottawa was playing the Islanders. Yeah.
He's
everything all good with Lou?
Best dressed GM in the league.
You always say that.
He's just like buttoned up.
Yeah.
Nice man. It was.
Well, they're having kind of their ups and downs right now. The Islanders.
They can't score, but they ended up scoring a bunch that night against Ottawa.
Yeah,
they were the better team that night.
Yeah, it's. You're right about avoiding the presser. I don't believe the Penguins were like, we got to win this for Dubas. But conversely, I don't think the Leafs were like, we got to win this for Shanahan or anything.
I know, but if subconsciously you're not like, it would be like you just. Whenever it's like a big thing where one of your key players is in their hometown or you're playing against the old GM, a situation like that, if you don't understand that you want to get the win just for like a good vibe, then you're just a dummy. You know what I mean? I'm sure there was like, let's get this one for Dubas.
Yeah.
On the Pittsburgh end.
I guess I'm just wondering, you guys can answer this. Like, is the GM connected enough to you? Like, I get if it's a star player that left, like Tavares going to the, leaving and going back to the
No, what I'm talking about, it's not like Kyle would walk down to the dressing room and have a pregame speech against the Leafs saying, I can't stand these guys. I really want this one. You just, as a player, you kind of know the scenario.
Yes. Well,
it might be the only.
But that should go both ways, shouldn't the Leafs have been thinking that way?
But the only thing Saturday? I would say, so if you're on the road, correct me if I'm wrong, but you say something like Dubas might have. Now they were at home, but. They might have like pregame meal with the guys and be like, hey, you got some money on the board for that game against Toronto. Mm-hmm. Like there'd be some ribbing, don't you think? There'd be like, hey, hey GM, what do you got for money on the board type of thing for next Saturday's game?
I'm sure Dubas was ecstatic.
Guys are aware of it. And yes, Kyle would have been excited about it. Spezza, they kind of looked composed up there in the box. They kept flashing them in the box.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's good TV. Like everyone understands Spezza. I don't know why Spezza would have an issue with the Leafs personally. He just seems more of a guy that was connected to Dubas, so he left with Dubas. Right. And he's from Toronto. He grew up a Leaf fan. He always wanted to play here. He's a Leaf alumni. Like Spezza's got I would think, a bit of a different view of the Leafs. Yeah. Where with Dubas, it probably became personal. But let's not forget, he left because he chose to leave. And he got Spets
has nothing to gripe about.
Nothing.
Nothing. They were buddies. You could tell. It was his guy, and he was probably pissed off with Dubas, and he left with them. End of story. Very simple.
And there would have been some back channeling too, saying
the Pittsburgh job is there, and exactly. Come with me.
You're coming with me, type of thing.
Which is exactly what happened. He walked in immediately, said, "I'm out too," and then Spezza left with Dubas, and I'm sure Dubas had told him, I got my eye on something, and I think it's going to materialize, and that's what happened. He decided to go to Pittsburgh. So, bygones are going to be bygones, but this revisionist history, this idea that Kyle Dubas was, if he stayed for one more offseason, then it would have really been different. I'm not buying that for a second. The guy was on the job for 5 years. He never traded any core piece. I don't think he was going to move on the head coach. I don't think any of it was going to happen.
That's just an easy way out for anybody to just say, if I had one more year, I would have done it. Give me a break. It's just...
Speaking of moving on the head coach, did you see that?
Yeah, so in Minnesota, they fired Dean Evason, their head coach, which, again...
Underachieving team.
They're 5-10-4. They've lost 7 games in a row.
Are they underachieving though? Like, what were you? They've got a lot out. We don't need a hot wild chat here, but they've got a lot out of that group the last couple of years, grinding it out with what they've got with their salary cap scenario. And it's like I don't understand firing the coach. Their star players aren't going, and it's caught up to them.
It is.
I would have let it ride, man.
I like Evason. I think there's an expiration date on everything. We talked about it the other day. Like, he has a vein in the side of his head. He gets on the best of days, he looks like
he's my favorite guy behind
tear somebody's head off.
He's so angry all the time.
But Kaprizov has had, he had he's had a bad start to the season. Boldy's a talented kid. They've got some guys who are really underachieving there, and underachieving players, the coach pays the price.
Yes, right? And again, you look at it. If you start a season 5-10-4, you lose 7 in a row. You're in trouble if you're the coach.
Yes,
you're in trouble if you don't have a long history of winning. Which Evason, though, and the Wild have been a perennial playoff team. They have been in the running, but they're kind of starting the way it's kind of like Edmonton. Yeah. Where it's we expect to be a playoff team. We haven't been. We've been embarrassed at times, and the coach is going to have to pay the price. But I think the point you're making here, is they're paying Parise and Suter money.
15 sheets.
These guys aren't even there.
Yeah, they have $15 million in cap space. Two players aren't on their team.
Right.
What the hell's Dean Evason supposed to do? That's what I would say to Billy Guerin. What did you want me to do with this group? I weaseled this group into the playoffs for a couple years, but that's all I could milk out of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that's fair, and I can't imagine this is a desirable job. Because those guys, doesn't it get worse, their cap hit?
Well, it's 15 right.
Cap.
No, I think this might be the worst year, I think, for it. Dead cap money. I think it's 50. It's 15 this year and a couple more years.
Yeah, it's
15 this year, 15 next year, and then
come on.
And then it scales down after it.
It's tough, man.
That's insane.
Listen, they made the decision to buy those players out.
Yeah.
I get it,
is sitting at home, or he has an open invitation with Lou Lamoriello. You see Lou's comments all the time going, if he's going to decide to play, it'll be with us. He's still letting us know. Suter's still a very good player.
He's playing pretty well, yeah.
But at that price point, they were ready to move on from those players. I think they needed a change there. The owner signed off on it.
I would have only pulled the trigger on it, Noodles, if Gary Bettman said, you know what, just do it for 1 year, and then we'll make up a ruling that it's ridiculous, and you don't have to play like that anymore.
It's 2 years, so it's this year at 14.7, next year at 14.7, and then it drops to 1.6 after that.
Yes.
So it's 2 years of...
This year and next of a massive cap crater because they bought out Parise and Suter, which means they can't do anything in the offseason. And it's also a market that, since they've returned to Minnesota, with all due respect, Noodles, this has not been a team that has exuded a winning atmosphere.
Oh, well, they haven't.
They just haven't done anything in 20 years.
Yeah, I mean.
What do you think people from Minnesota are going to say to you?
Well, that's fine.
But they have won playoff
Carlton
rounds.
the Bear? Yeah. I'm just making a comment.
Yeah, it's
not
you,
factual.
It is, but it's I don't know. If I was a guy listening in Minnesota, I'd be like, this guy acts like he's won in Toronto.
Disrespect Arizona.
But again, I don't work for the Leafs. And who's listening? The grumpy old men down there in Minnesota?
There's people in Minnie that listen.
I'd love it to work out. I'm betting the Vikings tonight. They should be ecstatic about that. Hasenbrough on the Vikings. Well, all I'm saying is...
You're just hanging from the top ropes on a bathroom stall, and this time it's on Minnesota. It's outrageous.
No one cares about what people in New Jersey think.
Okay. Replace New Jersey with Minnesota.
Right.
All right, but I'm stating
Why
a fact.
don't you just say the word so we can have it on the highlight film? Nobody cares about what people think about Minnesota.
But I do. I mean, I
want Hayes to say it.
Never pick.
I want Hayes to say it.
That's not the point I'm trying to make. I'm not saying I don't have an appreciation.
They don't have a rich history of going to Cup finals, all of that, right?
Since they've been home, the North Stars went to the Cup final against Pittsburgh, I think, in 91 or something. And then since they've been home, since they've been back, they've just kind of been around. That's all I'm saying.
Solid team,
and now they're not great, and they have these issues. So I'm saying, I'm speaking up for Dean Evason, which I thought you were doing.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, if you're like a prospective coach, are you sitting there looking at Minnesota saying, gotta be there?
Right, like
that's a
desirable job.
Gotta have that job where it's
No,
not.
I'd be looking at it like, why do I want to get my first coaching job in Minnesota where there's dead $15 million of dead cap space for 2 years? I want to get on the. I want to get on the train on the other side of that to start. Because you know what coaches are like, man. You go to a dumpster fire and they suck and you get canned.
Yeah.
People like you got a stain in your shorts and people can't get by it.
That's right. It's a real issue. It's a significant issue.
Just a 50 out of 50 stain.
Yeah,
It is.
It's swass that is so bad.
You
can't
see
push
who they're
past.
announcing? John Hynes.
Johnny Hynes is the new coach. So
That's,
he's circled
Michael
through.
Russo.
Is it Nashville, New
No,
Jersey,
didn't he go Jersey, Nashville?
Jersey, Nashville,
Now into
Minnesota? Johnny Hynes.
Now he's a kind of defensive, specialist type of
Does he
guy.
have a history with Bill Guerin?
Well, they're
I don't
just
know.
USA hockey guys.
Might be
That's
guys,
all
yeah.
I would think
I don't-
about. But
He's a
that's just
solid
hiring
coach.
a guy. I like John Hynes, but that's just saying they got to get somebody different in there.
Yeah, exactly. Like, is he? Who knows? I mean, he's going to come in with a fresh take on things. It'll be a
Right.
reset.
Well, I mean, there's
Shout out to John Hynes.
but I mean, there's carnage here. That's the thing, there's carnage. Now, Edmonton was the first coach. Was I not right? Is that
Yeah,
or was there somebody
Woodcroft
else?
was Babcock, but that was.
Oh yeah, but
before it
Babcock was
started.
before the season.
Babcock was
Technically,
breaking
is that a
records.
coaching change for this season?
Yeah, I
technically?
think so because the new season begins like July 1st.
Okay, so then we've had 3 coaching changes,
Yeah,
2 in season, 1
pre-camp.
pre-training camp.
Not season, camp.
Pre-training camp. That
Rookie
which is still
camp.
outrageous.
Yeah,
Still
And
outrageous.
They have still not been able to figure that out in Columbus.
But I mean, something had to give there. You
Yeah,
lose
it's
a bunch
been
of
ugly.
games in a row. You're right. The cap
I'll keep
hit-
my eye on Minnesota.
yeah,
I got my eye on them.
sky
Just-
dump on many.
Yeah, hanging right from your shoulders.
I
on
do
top.
believe. Correct me if
Just-
I'm
I'm
wrong.
spitting
There was a
facts, and
time
that's an
there
issue.
with Lemaire there and Manny Fernandez and Rolison and Gabrick and them. I thought they went pretty deep into the playoffs, and that was within the history of the last 20 years.
I don't think they've made it to a conference final.
I think they have. I
You know,
think they've made
you
it.
know when the Leafs did last? The 2002. And some guy from Minnesota saying, what have they done since then?
Yeah, but I'm not doing a show
not
for
a
Lake
comparison.
Minnetonka. Like, I'm in Toronto here, and I don't
Not
know
in
why it
Brainerd.
matters. Again, the Leafs have no connection to what we're talking about in Minnesota. I understand the
I know,
history of the Leafs,
But it just
believe
seems
me.
like
Yeah,
you're
Joe from
goofing
the
on them.
bridge.
You're just like,
I'm
they got
not-
nothing going on.
Wild Ducks conference final.
They did?
2003.
2003 they made it.
That's
What kind
20
of
years?
conference final was that? That was Babs in Anaheim.
Yeah.
That was J.S. Shiger.
That was he was the Conn Smythe that
Yeah.
year, right?
They lost to Jersey,
Wow.
I think, right, in the final.
Conference final, 2002.
Oh, what were the ratings for that? Minnesota, Anaheim. There's
Look at this guy. Look at this guy.
there's a
Still can't help.
20-year-old sky
This guy
dump.
cares about ratings and other things.
That is a 20-year-old revisionist history sky dump on a conference final. I hate that conference final. It was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
All right. Wendell Clark coming up in studio in about 15 minutes. We've got a coaching change in Minnesota. We got a line change up here in Toronto. Mitch Marner and William Nylander flipping lines. More on that as we move forward. Steve Phillips still to come as well. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, TSN 1050's Leafs lineup is your chance to win Leaf tickets every week, all season long. Every weekday, we'll announce a current or former Maple Leaf player, and on Fridays, you'll have a chance to call in and name the Leaf lineup of the week. Name all the players in the lineup. You'll score a pair of tickets to an upcoming Leaf game. This week, we're giving away a pair of tickets to see Leafs Predators December 9th, which is, again, a Saturday night. Which is big. Saturday night games, we're giving those away. Plus, we're throwing in a $250 Vanilla Visa prepaid card with each pair of tickets to make it the ultimate game night. Vanilla Visa prepaid cards are available for purchase at Petro-Canada. Today's player, you got to know this was coming. Wendell Clark.
Yes.
Wendell Clark is today's Maple Leaf player of the day. Wendell's coming up in about 10 minutes in studio. 6 o'clock, Wendell will be in studio.
Can't wait. Former teammate. I think. Oh, did
Down
you
on the
play?
island,
You
right?
never played with him, or did you?
I did not know.
Yeah, I played with him on the island.
Mike Milbury
he-
days, wasn't it?
Was that the fisherman? I think he was in the
He
fisherman
wasn't
jersey.
there that long, was he?
No, he was. I mean, that was coming out of the lockout, I think. So it's like a half a season, and it was the fisherman jersey.
And then he got flipped back up here.
Yeah, so he
I
might
think
have
from the island.
traded at the deadline then.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have to figure.
I don't
it out.
remember like the timeline of when he got flipped, but he came back up
Talked about this before.
from the Islanders.
He had two of the best fights I've ever seen. He fought Marty McSorley in L.A. one like that night. We were getting rinsed. It was like 8-2 or something, and Wendell had enough. It was one of the greatest fights I've ever seen.
Man, those
Lies.
two guys were monsters.
And they're like buddies or something, aren't they?
I think they're buddies, but I mean that was like there.
yeah, look at that jersey.
I love those.
It's actually not a
jerseys.
bad jersey.
I
You look
love
at
the
it.
fisherman jersey.
The Islanders jersey, not too bad.
We'll have to get his take on it.
Wendell, like, could you picture Wendell with a visor on?
No.
Like you can't see that. I can't see
If the
it.
league said you have to wear visors when he played, I think he would step away from the game.
Yeah, I'm
Just
retiring.
retire,
As
yeah.
of today, I'm no longer playing in the National Hockey League. So Wendell's coming in studio. We'll catch up with him. We'll get to our best bets brought to you by FanDuel. We got a Monday nighter tonight. We got a bunch of games in the NHL, the NBA. Raps coming off a loss yesterday against Cleveland, and the Leafs are back in action against Florida tomorrow night. Final hour up next. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 soon to be up on TSN 2.